Hi everyone. I'm Anubhav Nath, the director of Ojas Art Gallery and this space. Thank you everyone for being here. And today it's a very special day for us where we have with us two doyens of the sector that we work in. And actually they need no introduction, no, honestly.
We've been around a long time.
They really don't need any introduction, but Malvika Singh, editor of Seminar, and other than that, what's very interesting is that, in my generation, like, we heard a lot about the Bihar famine that happened and how Pupul Jaikar sent a team of young,
we were very young.
Men and young women mostly.
Both.
Young men and women from Delhi to Bihar at the time of the famine, and this was the team that went in and came out with ideas about how to use the art that was being done on the walls and how one could bring it into the city. So Malvika here was a part of that brigade that went in and got the Madhubani work from the walls onto paper, and we're going to hope to hear a little bit about that today. And of course we have with us Mitch Crites. Mitch has been, I would say, he's been a mentor to me in a very subtle way, and he's always been there for me to go to for any sort of guidance or any help that I required with the indigenous art. Thank you, Mitch, for serving that role. And other than that, Mitch has been in this category for more than 5 decades now. And I think he's one of the most knowledgeable people we have in this sector. And so it's such a great opportunity for us to learn a little bit about the sector and how Mitch has seen it change over 5 decades, because there's been like a paradigm shift in all of it. And other than that, also Mala and Mitch are great friends. And I thought it was that would also add a very fun dimension to otherwise what can be very stuffy talk. So, and Mala is, like you see, she's an entertainer, But thank you both for being here.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you for making this possible. Over to the floor.
Thank you.
Well, just to go back to the Madhubani for a minute, Pupul Jaikar rang us one day and she said, get out of your comfort zone and go to Madhubani, go to Mithila. There's been a famine in Bihar, and let's see how, rather than give dole to people who are suffering that famine, get them to do what they're really good at, bring it to Delhi and market it in the urban areas, and then send that money back. Now we're talking circa, very bad with dates, but we're talking something 1960s, mid-60s. So we did that, and it was an amazing thing, because for me, it launched me into falling in love, and there's no other word I can give it, or phrase, with this country and just what is out there. Because sitting here in the schools of Delhi and in the cities, you don't get that sense, you don't get that soul of India, and that triggered endless things right up to the Festival of India, Nagaland, and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to get into all that, but that was where it all began. And one quick story, the first encounter when I came back to Delhi was to take baskets that the men had made in Mithila and get into a filthy truck with a filthy truck driver at 5 in the morning. He had driven from God knows where, sweat, it was the works, and get into the seat next to him, front seat, go to Sabzi Mandi on Mall Road, and then start selling those baskets to the vegetable vendors and make the money, send it back to Bihar. So it was absolutely superb experience. Mitch, I've known you, well,
Early 70s.
27 years?
27. From the early 70s.
Early 70s. How many years does that make? It makes it forever. So Mitch came to India, and it's a really interesting story, which I'm going to ask him to tell you. He came as a young man to Delhi and went and stayed in Nizamuddin. And now you quickly tell us your story.
Yes. Well, before I start about my story, I just want to say that I'm deeply impressed with this show. And I'm very impressed with what Anubhav has been doing with this gallery. I think he has the most exciting exhibitions and the most exciting, penetrating, perceptive
Bring your chairs.
analysis of folk and tribal art, Adivasi art, of anyone else in Delhi. And I think this is a superb and brilliant show. Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you.
So I came to India first came in '66, and then I went back to University of Chicago. I was doing my PhD in ancient Indian history, and my thesis advisor was Mala's aunt, Dr. Romala Topper. And I came back to India in '69 and started my research for my thesis. And
Where were you staying?
I was staying in the Nizamuddin Basti, right. I had a Barsati from, if you climbed up on the roof, which we did in the winter, whenever we needed cooler air, we would climb there. You could see the Dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin Aulia below. And I stayed there. I suddenly realized that, slowly I realized that I don't want to go back to America and teach. I want to stay here. I want to work with people. I want to work with craftsmen. I want to explore the country more. And then the call of the Sufi saint in the Dargah gave me a call. And I became more and more interested in Islam. And I'm often asked why foreigners convert to Islam. My experience is quite simple. You start with Sufism, because you find a Sufi teacher, he teaches you more and more, you learn more and more, and then one day they all say, you want to really go into the esoteric inner tradition of Islam, you have to convert. So you convert not because you really want to become a Muslim, you convert because you want to learn more and more and more.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
It was a natural
Progression.
and I meet lots of people who are become Muslim, and some of them get stuck in North Africa because they get connected to the really important Sufis in North Africa. Others get caught in Iran, but everybody gets caught by a teacher, and the teacher finally says, convert, so you convert.
And who was your teacher?
Zuhur Hassan, he was one of the Pirzadas of the shrine. He's gone now, but he taught me a lot.
And where did you meet your wife?
Well, she was also the gift of the Basti, of the Dargah. My wife is from Iran. She's a direct descendant of Nadir Shah. And of course, when we got married, I told her that in Iran, he's a hero, but he's not so much a hero in India. And you should, cool it a little bit. And I had done 5 years, I did work with the Empress of Iran. And I did 2 books on photographic books with a famous photographer, Rolaf Beni. We did 2 books on Iran. And at the end, I'll tell you, this is a quick story. This
Don't. Please, I will stop you when you've gone over the line.
Well, at the end of the 5 years, Her Imperial Majesty asked me, I want to give you a gift.
Is this Faradiba?
Faradiba, yes. I want to give you a gift. So I thought I had become very Darvishi, very Sufi-like, and I had no possessions. I had 2 shoes, 2 pairs of shoes, 2 pairs of pants, 2 shirts, no money.
And he was at that point Abdul Karim Crites.
And I had converted to Islam, and my Muslim name is Abdul Karim. So Her Majesty, I'm an archaeologist. I was trained as an archaeologist. So Her Majesty had these wonderful white ceramic plates from the 10th century written in Kufi script. And there's a black spot in the middle, which means pure knowledge. And you just, they're magnificent. And she had maybe 2,000 or 3,000. So I thought I'll ask her for a plate. Then I thought to myself, I'm going back to India overland. If I put the plate in my backpack, it'll be dust when I arrive in Delhi. So I said, Your Majesty, could you donate something to the Dargah of Hazrat Nizamuddin? There are many poor people. And she said, I'll never forget, she said, go back to Delhi and you meet my man in Delhi. So I thought, who's her man in Delhi? It was the Iranian ambassador. So I met the Iranian ambassador, and Her Majesty had given $25,000, which in 1978
was a lot of money.
So we made a program to distribute food to the poor, blankets, and we also did a qawwali competition.
Oh.
And they sang in Persian, in Farsi, as well as in Urdu.
Oh, how wonderful.
And we gave awards and prizes and things. And my wife had come as a guest of the cultural attaché, Reza Alavi. I don't know if you remember him or not. He
I
was
do.
a wonderful guy. And she stayed with him, and we met. So,
And the rest is
and
history.
we fell in love, and then jumped forward. The photographer had died, and I was writing his biography. And the revolution had come, the Iranian Revolution. The Shah had died, and she was in Paris. She called, I asked, could I interview about the books? We did. And we met, and I came into she lived right above the Eiffel Tower. I came in, and she said, first of all, I hear you got married. And I hear she's very beautiful. I said, so people say, Your Majesty, so people say. She said, I'm very happy for you. And so at the very end of the conversation, I said, do you remember, Your Majesty, do you remember the gift you gave me? She said, you mean the donation to the village? I said, that was not the real gift. It was my wife. Because if I had chosen the plate, I would have never met my wife. And she cried. So that was a
Wonderful story.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So then Mitch moves into studying the great skills of India and the ustads who made absolutely wonderful things, and he goes into high-end Islamic, Mughal art. Let me put it like that, general.
We really brought back, after 20 years of work, we brought back Shah Jahan quality. And I remember...
And done in India.
Yeah, and we had huge projects all over the Islamic world and America. And that was what I mostly have done the last 50 years. But
then I'm going to take you now to the other part of his life. So from the high-end patronage kind of art, he then got deeply involved and is passionate about where the aesthetic actually came from. It came from man, woman, child, living in the forests, building an environment for themselves with beauty. And he took that and linked, I think, where it reached to from where it began. And here we are. I'm going to hand you over to him to talk about the Goans specifically today. But I mean, Mitch is a fund of information. He should leave his card with all of you, and you should really drop in and have a coffee with him and chat with him about various things and open the dialogue.
You're too
So
kind.
Mitch, to you.
Too kind. So I had done 12 years of Sanskrit, and you learn more and more about less and less, and you get tired of it. And so when I came to India, and Mala was part of that group, there was a small group of people who every month would go to the Crafts Museum, the Craft Museum in the shadow of Purana Kila. We would all go, because every month there was a new group of artisans coming from all over the country, folk and tribal and indigenous artists. And we would all try to be the first one there so we could
And that's how we made friends.
And we made friends and...
I mean, there are ongoing relationships with all these people and their children.
Absolutely. And in those early period, and this was actually in the 80s, then we began to hear, I don't know if you heard about him or not, there was this tribal artist named Jangar Singh Shyam.
Yes.
And we were all collecting his work, little black and white drawings, and then suddenly the word came that the Suraj Kund Mela, he's coming. So I ran the first day, and I was there early in the morning, and he was unrolling his bamboo mat and putting out his paintings, and I think I scared him because I'm so big. And I said, look, I love your work, and I want to collect it, and I'm not one of those foreigners who's going to leave. I'm going to be here, and here I am 55 years later. And I said, if you come to Delhi, whenever you come to Delhi, I'd like to show me your work. So over the years, I collected his work. Now, my wife also, she loved his work. it was a period where nobody thought they were going to become famous. Nobody thought they were going to become...
Pretty much like Madhubani would
Yes,
never,
like
if that
Madhubani.
hadn't happened.
Nobody thought Sita Devi would become who she was. And so we bought because we loved it. And we also I loved the fact that it goes beyond the classical period. It goes to the very roots, the primordial, primeval roots of your civilization.
Of sensibility, actually.
Yeah, sensibility goes back to the timeless period, you know, where earth and water and fire, everything, it was really, it was elemental and raw. And they were in touch with that through their legends and through their myths. And so I collected his work for many years until he tragically committed suicide in 2001.
In Japan.
In Japan. And then I remember about 2015, I told Mala, I have about 150 of his paintings, maybe 175. Every 2 years I take them out of the box and I get a bottle of wine and I drink and I cry. She said, that's the most selfish thing I've ever heard of in my entire life. You have to share. You have to share him with us. She said, why do you keep his stuff in a box? Let's artwork. Bring it out and let's do a book. So we did a book. And that was an important book because then international museums got more interested. And
it made a statement. It established
it established
the art.
Him, Anubhav. No. So the reason I bring Jangar up is because he's the father of Gond art. He's probably, arguably, one of the most important of all the folk and tribal artists that India has ever produced. I think he is the most.
Sita Devi.
Well, I think, but the range of what he did.
Yeah, no. What I mean is the two are really, Sita Devi also fits that
impact.
bill.
Both had enormous impact.
Huge impact.
So the artists who are you see today, Mayank is Jangar's son, who I knew when he was a baby. I knew him from the beginning. And then Ram Singh Urveti is also connected through his wife. Jangar was her uncle. So when I look at this exhibition, I just marvel at how they've developed, how rich and how complex and how creative these artists have become.
But Mitch, in today's time with the environmental pressures as they are and the story of a degradation of the environment and therefore a value system, I think, don't you think that the art that we see coming out of the Gonds and the tribal areas really is drawing our attention back to the importance of man, the earth, the sky? I mean, the last space, I think, in India where you find that, and not in art, is in Nagaland, for instance. Everything is the earth and the sky. You're dependent on what is around you, and then you grow your art, your craft, your culture, your songs, your storytelling around that. And I think the Gonds in today's context are extremely contemporary. Would you like to elaborate on that?
They have a very contemporary message, and the sense of the environment and the balance and the elemental quality of their beliefs, and they've kept that alive.
That's it.
You know, this is very important. An interesting story is I have one. I'm going to show you some early Gond art just to show you what was going on in the 80s and the 90s. And one of the artists was, I don't have his work. I have a Narmada Prasad, don't I? No. Yes, I have one Narmada Prasad. And Narmada Prasad Tekam, who is also a relative of Jangar, he was in the 80s as talented and as wonderful as Jangar. I mean, I thought he's just, especially in his animals. So 80s passed, 90s passed, early 2000. I said, Narmada, you've lost your way. You know, he said, you know what happened? Jangar left the enchanted forest and came to Bhopal, but he never left the forest in his mind. I can't remember it anymore. You know, I can't find my way back to the enchanted forest. I became urbanized. I got a job with the government, and I can't paint like what I used to paint for you.
Now that's very interesting, because all the institutionalizing of even handlooms and things in the cities, in city centers, you're lifting people, you're transporting them into alien environments, and it kills everything. But
Absolutely.
I don't see that happening in...
No, it hasn't happened here. But now I think some of them got diverted. I mean, Mayank, for example, his early work, the black and white ones, it was beautiful, but it was very much with urban themes and things like that. He's turning back, you know, Anubhav. He's going back to the
But let me
myths and
ask
the
you, why
stories.
not urban themes? I mean,
No,
I mean, I'm just curious.
I'm not against that, but he got diverted by the city. But then he's gone back to the...
But has his style and his spirit gone, or is it reflected in the urban interpretation of a changing India?
I think both. I think he's doing both, but he's going back more to the teachings of his father and how his father instructed him, and to draw from the myths and the legends and everything.
Okay.
So anyway, Narmada Prasad, now, even to flash forward to now, we recently have been working with him in Bhopal, several of my colleagues, and they talked to him, and he said, I have a new feeling of what I want to paint, but it's black, and it's ugly, and it's dark.
Make it.
And they said, do it. So now he's doing the most incredible rakshasas, these demons that are just...
Do you think
the
they're
short point is
reflective?
he's found his way back to the enchanted forest.
To the enchanted
And
forest,
he's
okay.
made it. And it can happen after a lapse of time. Yeah. The
don't
nourishment
think
is
it's-
still there, you know, what he
You
can...
don't think it's using the same idiom but reflecting the present times?
The what?
You don't think it could be him using the same idiom that is reflecting contemporary times, dark, confusing?
It could very well be, because he's become moodier, he's become more, you know, yeah, it could be.
So it's an ongoing
It's all-
process,
yes,
you
yes,
know,
he's
that's
still
that.
there, the city is still there around him and everything. So I wanted to just give you that background, and I want to show you the kind of cultural milieu that Mayank and Ram Singh came from. Now, in the 80s and 90s, there were no famous artists. There were just developing artists. Now, some of these artists have become famous. This is from the collection that my wife and I collected in the past. This is Baju Sham. There you go. There are two, if you want.
Gosh,
Two
which year was that?
Two Baju Shams. Now, you'll notice little motifs, you know, almost like arrowheads or little designs and things. Junger, in those days, he told all of his relatives, each of you should find a motif. I do dots. You should do a leaf, or you should do this,
Oh,
or you
how
should do this.
interesting.
And that will. It was very innocent and
Let's
very
see.
beautiful.
Let's
and
take a picture of this.
Very innocent and very. Afterwards, if you want to come up and look at them, please do, because they're quite rare. These are from. This is 98. Yeah. So this is another Buri Bai. This is Buri Bai, who had won been one of the finest Bhil artists. And if you'll notice that she has her thumbprint there. And when I showed it to her recently, she said, that was before I learned how to sign my name. So that was what I had. And then this is the Narmada Prasad. And then this is Narmada Prasad, the one who had lost his way. And he had joined the print department at Bharat Bhavan, where Junger was also, and he had done this wonderful print. He specialized in animals painting. And this is, when did I get this? 1995. This is Suresh Kumar Dhurve, who's also a relative of Junger, and his work. So you can see, and then I didn't start with where I started from. This is my Junger. This is a wonderful drawing of a scorpion, you know. So you can see, when you come up and see it, you'll see he's using the Rotring pen, and how much influence that had on the work of Ram Singh and on Mayank, of course.
Where are the women in all this?
Well, there's very much there. There's Younger's wife, Nankusya, has become a very established artist. His daughter, Japani,
Okay.
is also working. And some of the most interesting, I think some of the most interesting art coming out today in the, what I call the heartland of India. I'm really specializing, I'm too old to go around all over the country anymore. So I'm specializing in eastern Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, that whole area. And I call that the heartland, tribal heartland of India. And it's filled with rituals. And I recently was there, and I was Romala, and she asked, is there a shaman in the tribe? And the Baiga tribe? And yes, said, yes, we call her the Baigan.
Oh.
So she said, can I meet the Baigan? So the Baigan comes, and she's high as a kite, you know, just absolutely, God knows what she was drinking or whatever. And Romala began to talk to her about what power. I have Shakti, I have a lot of power. I understand how to heal, I understand plants, I understand colors, I understand ritual. I mean, it was absolutely fascinating. So these people still are there. And I invite you all, when you travel, to go and try to meet these. One of the most exciting things about, if you're in the West and you're interested in contemporary art, you don't get to meet those artists. You don't get to meet the musicians. They're just untouchable. Here you can sit with them, eat with them, talk with them, work with them, sit down and paint with them. You know, they're very accessible. And I think that's one of the great things that India offers.
Do you recall Bharat Bhavan and the time when J. Swaminathan actually spent a lot of time doing what you're talking about?
Oh, wonderful. Bharat Bhavan I never have been to Shantiniketan, and certainly not in the, maybe you went in the old days.
No, I'm not, I'm younger than you.
It must have been like, where's
Hello.
Shantiniketan, yes. Shantiniketan must have been, to me it's like a dream, and Bharat Bhavan was like that. Swamiji was wandering around barefooted, everybody was drinking chai, smoking.
Not chai.
Whatever, yeah, all that was going on. And he would, Buribai and Ladobai were daily laborers. They were carrying bricks on their heads and building part of the Bharat Bhavan. And he told them, do you paint? And they said, I don't know, we don't know. And he said, well, here's the paper and the paints and the brushes and things, and they never looked back, and now they're the most famous.
So these are the people like Swaminathan were the pioneers who actually did this. Parthiv Shah's father did the similar thing in Udaipur.
Udaipur. And then that man who, in Madhubani, there was a man who was very important. I forget his name.
I forget
I don't remember. Early on, he was one of the ones.
So, you know, in those days, you had people who actually went out there and said, here's the paper, here's the paint, or use ink, like Parthiv Shah's father got them, Haku Shah, senior moments, my dear. And this triggered a whole burgeoning of that kind of expression on paper. In Madhubani, it moved off the walls of the house onto paper. Popul used to say, use brown paper, so it looks like the mud of the walls of the house, colors muted. You also had leadership in terms of, you know, the artists and political leaders and so on, putting paintings such as these in their homes, pushing the envelope forward. There was a great deal of that kind of patronage, whether it was in textiles or it wasn't necessarily just money. It was putting it, saying this is what it's all about, this is India. Where do you find all that today?
Yeah, that's the problem. I don't find it. It was transformational.
No, with the artist community, contemporary artists, why aren't they looking at all this?
I know, they should. It's so simple. I mean, a few months ago, Caroline, who runs my life and my projects, she jumped out of the car and she saw the sapera, the snake charmers, and said, "Do you paint?" I don't know. She's given them paper and pencils.
Yeah, saperas do paint. Kalbelias used to paint.
But back to Swaminathan, what he did was, when he was appointed head of Bharat Bhavan, he got together a team of young scholars, artists, anthropologists, and sent them all over the state. And that's how they discovered Junggar. And Junggar had done a wall painting on the house. And then his name was Vivek Tembe. And Vivek Tembe
Yes.
came back. They said, where is this artist? Where is this guy? And they said, he's run off into the forest with his girlfriend, and they'll come back tomorrow. So
And on that happy note, let us open this to questions.
now we open it up.
Bang on time.
We had very interesting conversation. So
Let me just tell about
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
About
yeah,
the
yeah,
color. I just wanted to get to the color. We were talking about colors, and Vivek met him, and he was using stone ground colors, earth colors, terracotta and white.
Can you explain how that
and-
color was made and also a little bit?
Yeah, he made it. He grounded himself.
Grounded
and,
it.
and he was taught by his mother, who did the digna, the wall paintings and the floor paintings on the wall. So basically, a lot of this art, as we said in the beginning, it's come off the up from the floors, off the walls, and onto canvases and paper, which was a natural progression. Had to happen, if they were going. There was wonder, how else were they going to take care of themselves and develop?
That's a very long debate.
So he brought some poster colors, and he had 5 poster colors, and he opened the 5, and Junggar put his fingers into the poster color and cried, and said, "I've never seen such colors in my life.
Gosh.
May I paint now?" And then he painted them.
Oh,
So,
wonderful.
Very touching, very touching. Yeah. Okay. Now, if anybody.
Viraja.
Yeah, hi, Biraj.
Want to ask you, can you speak a bit more about the Sarguja artists?
About?
The Sarguja artists, your work with Sundari Bai, your work with Sonabai Rajwar.
Yes.
Particularly the way you got them to paint what I think are really spectacular.
The Lipai, the big Lipai. Well, Sonabai, I didn't work. I met her once or twice, but recently, Sundari Bai comes from the Rajawat tribe, and she's become a great master. She traveled. She went to Paris. She went to London. She did demonstrations. Dr. Jatinder Jain had helped her a lot. And she was really the greatest. Lipai is like, it's in a short word, it's like finger painting.
It's the most
and it is
amazing.
It is a magnificent tradition. So we called her from Chhattisgarh about 3 years ago, and we gave her this huge space, and it's astonishing, Biraj. She takes the pigment in a cloth, and the cloth is tied and filled with the pigment, and she keeps squeezing and she keeps moving it, but she's changing all the time. She's looking ahead, and she's changing this geometric pattern will morph into this geometric pattern, and
Amazing.
and it's alchemical. It's magic, and she looks like a wonderful witch. She had a long braided what do you call
A
that?
plait.
Plait, yeah, right, and lots of wonderful tribal jewelry and everything, and. So we worked with her, and one of the things that came out of it was, I said, I'd like you to explore the 5 elements, earth, air, water, fire, ether. And so we got to fire, and I said, I don't want it to look like fire. I mean, I want the spirit, essence, spirit, all that, how do you get that across? So she went away and thought for about an hour, and she came back and said, I think I got it. And then suddenly, the canvas was on fire. It was just on fire, with no origin. It was fire, pure fire. And then she went to air and water and ether. Ether was wonderful. It was like you're floating up into the stratosphere. It's just wonderful. So, and then sadly, they go back. They're still working women. So they're out in the rice fields, and she had a heat stroke and she died. So, she has two disciples, Fulmani and Shakuntala, who are equally talented, and I think that Lipai has a great role to play. I want to work with them more, you know. But
There's another
I don't
exhibition for you
I
on the
don't
walls directly.
I don't collect much anymore. I love working with. I'm not an artist. I'm trained to be a scholar. The only talent I think I might have is that if I see a group of 50 artists, I can pick the one who's going to be the master.
The Ustad.
The Ustad. I have
Because that's his other avatar of identifying Ustads in the area of marble, stone, inlay, carving.
And I don't work with all of them and support all of them, but if you can bring up to the master level, to the Ustad level, and make them famous, make the tradition famous, then the whole Khandan comes with it. You know, it moves along. And right now, recently one of our artists, Jodaya Baiga, last year we got her the Nari Shakti Puraskar Award for women's empowerment. And then this year we got her we didn't get her, but I worked hard to promote her, and she was awarded the Padma Shri. And I have two more artists that I'm working with that I predict in 5 or 6 years they're going to get Padma Shri. You know, and we never paid any money to anybody. You know, we just did exhibitions, published a book, put it in
Well, that's the way to
collections, important collections.
Is it only Delhi and, only Delhi that actually has an exposure to this kind of work? I mean, do shows like this happen in Bangalore and in Indore, in in Calcutta, yes, but they do?
Bombay has.
But smaller towns? I mean, Jaipur hasn't had a show like this.
For example, did you know Anupam Abhishek Podar's mother-in-law?
Yeah, but
Kavita Sanghi.
Yes.
People like that. She did workshops with Jangar, with the Gond. There are all these local people who understand and want to promote.
But Mitch, it is what we wanted to do in Rajasthan when we were working together there. Wanting to bring this kind of engagement to the smaller towns, because that is where you'll have that regeneration of ideas and what they've lost and what they want to resurrect and so on and so forth. We weren't able to do it in Rajasthan. That's what I'm asking. Has it spread outside the obvious city centers?
Yeah, the bigger cities.
And how do we do that? How would you do that?
But I think one is these workshops that different organizations. There are different. There's the Kabir organization, Kabir Das, and then there's the Narmada River organization. They do workshops and they invite all of the.
So you see a change happening that's positive?
The Patna Museum has done a lot.
Yeah,
they have. Museums are important.
It's actually
it changed.
Yeah,
Museums
so it is happening.
Yeah, it happens, and in the smaller towns also. In the smaller towns.
If I may add to that, like
Jabalpur, in all of those.
Yeah,
small
Bhopal has
towns.
got the tribal museum.
Raipur. Museums can play a big role. Can play a very big role. And also the government. I met some minister the other day at an opera where they were doing this event. And I told her, I said, you have a responsibility, a major one. And Joe Dayabai was there.
Okay.
He had just been awarded the Padma Shri. This little 4'7" grabbed her, and I said, she's important. Hugged her and just grabbed her and said, you help me and help my people. And she said, I'm going to. So that she's Minister of Culture.
Any other questions?
Yes. So what I've seen while visiting many art galleries, the common people, they are not able to know what has been done by the artists. So it is very important if that is done, so that the art can go down the line. Currently art is something very secretive, very possessive. So in order to promote art, I think artists have this additional responsibility to know, so that people can know what is being done.
Yes, exactly. The museums and institutions are inaccessible. you know, the Jawahar Kala Kendra and JKK and in Jaipur. It's big, it's open and everything, but I kept telling my artisans, my ustads, my stone carvers, my painters, go there. No, Sahab, they won't let us in. We won't feel, they don't feel comfortable. You need to, but Crafts Museum was accessible.
Museum of Legacies.
Museum,
that was my question actually.
that was it. We had so many, tell them about what.
No, you tell them. I can't tell them about what I did.
Okay, well there was a few years ago, Mala was instrumental, and there was it was an old mansion from a minister, one of the ministers in the early Jaipur court, huge mansion in the city, in the old city, in the walled city. And then it had become a school of art run by Vijay Varghya, who's also a famous artist. And
the guy
Mala
used to
took
do
it
blue
over,
white.
restored it, and made a museum of legacies. And every day, I used to go every day and sit there, and every day there were people coming, peeking through the door, and they said, we used to come here when I was little.
To the school, and you know, they'd
we had
wander
a
through.
And now we feel that we're welcome. You have to be welcome. And also, back to your point, you need, now this is you, when I saw the thing, I told Devyani, I said, where are the labels? Where is the, and she said, this is the new, is this true? This is the new trend?
Because it's a two-person show, so that's why we did it this way, where we have a display list at the.
Okay.
I am
Because
going to be
when you
totally
come-
outlandish
even
here.
I know these artists. I know these artists well, but when I was wandering through, I was thinking, who is Ram Singh?
No, hello.
So you have to, for people like you who want to learn about art, you need it to be much more open to you, so you can.
I'm going to
understand.
answer your question slightly differently. When we did Museum of Legacies, the premise was we were not going to rent the space to anybody. We were going to invite people to bring what they loved and show it to the city, 6 months,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. and-
He put his stuff there, his personal art there, and people would wander through. Now, it took
But the
one
local people brought
local, so it took 1 week for the city center, the old city, to realize this was free. You could walk through. You could come late in the evening. You could bring your kids. The grandparents were bringing their children. You remember?
And-
It was just what a museum should be. It shouldn't be a graveyard of antiquity.
And they were bringing things, Mother. They were, one woman brought, this is my marriage belt, silver belt.
And
this
can
is-
I
this
show
is-
it?
Can
And
I
you
show
know,
it?
the engagement with the city began with artifact, to use a rather disgusting term. But anyway, I think art for me has always been, you walk in, you look at something, you appreciate it. You can interpret it whichever way you choose. Somebody shouldn't be telling you this is this and now you must look at it like this. That is not art, okay? For us, it's like textile. You wear a textile, I might read this motif as a star in the sky, you may read it as a flower. So be it. Texture, color, it's your personal thing. You wrap it around yourself. It's your expression of what you are, what you want to be, how you see it. Sorry.
No, that's, I think we answered.
At the Museum of Legacies, we too had a space where we put up Ladubai for almost an entire
That's right.
year.
And if you remember, we also gave a space to someone to put khatiyas,
Right.
just carts with different ways of tying the rope. We're forgetting all this. What is, and I think every city, every town, actually every panchayat needs in the panchayat ghar an area where people can put their things that they have, even a fragment of fabric,
yes.
a chint that is torn, it's not being made now, put it there, let people understand what it is, have conversations around it, storytelling. It's all
Absolutely.
about storytelling,
Yeah.
visual and other, you know. So I think there's great excitement of what can be done
that's
in the
what these
future.
paintings are all
And
about.
what you are doing,
Yeah.
Anubhav, is the beginning of that, and you need to accelerate it now.
And you can even bring in the local storytellers, the singers, the things to recite in front of the paintings what the story of that
Even
painting
look at
is.
what we had, the kawad. It was a story that you opened each.
Yeah, you open these wonderful books.
How many children today know that? Know of it? I mean, you could create a kavar and do a geometry lesson of triangles through a kavar.
Right. In Jaipur, there's this project where they're doing the whole fur painting with real subjects like geography, history.
You have to use these.
children
These
are
are
involved in
tools, you know, for. But let's have some more questions. Tarun.
No, I just wanted to ask Mitch. Jangar was the true original by every standard. But the school he's spawned, do you fear that it's become deeply imitative and derivative? He was a great original, there's no doubt.
Yes.
Is there a great evolutionary curve in that school?
No, it's this is a real danger, and galleries have a lot to say about this. I mean, sometimes I sit, an artist comes and the gallery owner is saying, I want you to paint it 5 foot by 3 foot, and I want a yellow background, and I want to
Killer.
see this like this. It kills it. It
It destroys it forever.
And they are immensely creative. They have also something what I call wall power. In the beginning, they were doing, everything was this size. But then I remember talking to Jangar. I said, Jangar, in America we have a concept we call wall power. And he said, what is wall power? And I said, wall power means that you can, some artists, not every artist, but some can paint big. He said, do you think I have wall power? I said, well, I think so, and here are some very large canvases and papers, and you take them home. And he came back and he had painted this wonderful deer with multiple antlers. It was 6 feet by 6 feet, and he never looked back, you know. And then he went and did the Vedanta Sabha with Charles Correa and painted these huge murals on
So
the
since
wall.
you're talking about them,
Yeah.
let me tell you in Madhubani, so Sita Devi's grandson, I called to Delhi, gave him a canvas which was 8 feet by 5 feet and said, just do a tree of life in black and white, and the rest if you want to put in some color, but primarily black. I cannot tell you what it's like. I will show it to you. It's just amazing, and that's what you need. You need that kind of patron also. You don't need gallery.
It's patronage. They
You
need a, Jangar had,
But they're not. They're
But the
commercial
problem-
patrons. Sorry, there's a difference.
Has there been the next step forward? Jangar died 22 years ago.
I think that
Broken ground from what
well, I
Is it derivative is basically what he's saying.
I have
or-
not, sadly, I have not found an artist that I think is equal of Jangar. It may skip a generation. It may come now it may come. It took maybe.
Or it may come in a different genre.
It takes in a different way. But the problem is that the galleries put a lot of pressure on them, the art dealers. As you know, they'll paint one painting and it's successful, so they say paint 5 more or 10 more, make copies. They have to make a living. So they need, Jangar was exceptional. I tell you, you know who he had around him? He had me, Swaminathan, Dr. Jyotinder Jain, Rajiv Sethi, Mark Tully, and the Dutch ambassadress, who
That's right, the one who had a huge collection.
That was his, and none of us told him what to paint. None of us said it should be this color or that subject or whatever. We just let him be, let him create. So I think there's too much commerce, there's too much commercial.
No, but to answer, you haven't answered his question. He's saying, is it all now very derivative from then?
Well, there is a lot there.
Of
the
new
theme-
stuff happening. There is that young boy.
We keep waiting to see who's now interpreting this country has changed dramatically in 22 years, including where they come from. I mean, you're waiting to see, who's breaking ground in anything, line, color, image.
Well, there are some really, for example, the Jogis have kind of lost their way, but the Jogis at one point, what is interesting, what I find very interesting is when these artists began to do social commentary.
That
They
was the
become-
yogis only.
No, but there are other ones who also
Yes?
comment in about.
Because I did that book, na, Contemporary
Yes, the
Expressions on the yogis.
Yeah. So, but they've also gotten sidetracked and they're repeating themselves and everything. But they are, the answer to your question is they are incredibly creative and they don't need to do that. They just need some
No, but
Some-
there is, to answer your question, there is a young man. For instance, I'll give you one example. In Bikaner House, the guy you introduced me to,
Oh, yes.
his work's not derivative at all.
No, no.
And it's very much in today's time,
We've forgotten his name.
senior moments. We are all in our post-70s,
We both forgot his name, but
I mean, you can't. And
He-
that's why we can talk about the past. But I will get his name for you because it's signed on the painting I've got. And he is doing a contemporary forest.
yes.
He's
fabulous.
doing leopards on trees. He's doing, but it's slightly different in style. It's more sparse. I'll show you. And this guy just needs to, I'll introduce you to him because, you know, you could then help him get an exhibition going somewhere. It is happening, but it needs patrons, you know, Tarun.
Yeah.
People have to put
But-
their money down. I'm telling you, I'm going to deviate for 1 second into textiles. If I hadn't done that project during COVID of 21 master weavers and telling them on the phone to do X sari in Y color and that many counts cotton, all in cotton, because it was cotton before the Brits took the cotton away. The skill is alive. Do not haggle. Do not tell them what to do, except that you want this count and you want this pattern from the old directories, right? The introduction of a little ikat somewhere, something, they do, even today. But you have to give them that respect and pay for their work. They are artists. We are constantly saying, you know, this is the pay, you know, this is, you do it within so much money, and you're killing it. So they're saying, idiots, we'll just paint something and hand it over. That's the derivative that's entering the market. So the commentary. Tell them about the new commentary of the new artist.
Well,
that's not derivative.
The art, I'm working with two groups now, the Baiga group, the Baiga in Madhya Pradesh, and also the Mandavis in Chhattisgarh. They are never repeating themselves. They are looking deep. I don't even have to tell them what to do. They're looking deep into the enchanted forest. They're, you know, they really don't need much. It's there. It's there. And
Is the style changing?
the style is, oh yes, style is changing.
So
I
that's what he's
absolutely.
asking.
Oh, I see. The style, it's still pointillist, it's still the dots, but then the colors have changed, the scale has changed, the subjects are changing. You know, it's very exciting. You know, it's very exciting. Must come one day to the.
I want to say that you know, we've been able to discover something like that in another genre altogether in Varli, where we've been working with the Vaida brothers.
Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, I've seen that stuff.
you've seen that
Yeah,
stuff? So
Worley
they're
is a very good example.
different anything that happened before that. And they're very young, and I'm hoping they have a long way to go. We can get a good response. To
So
them.
basically, everything is not derivative. There is
No, there is a
change
lot going
happening
on,
in
but
style and interpretation and subject matter.
yes, subjects are changing all the time. Yes, all the time.
So you need to expose a bit of that, maybe
the older works
juxtaposition.
would, like, you know, the newer works with Gontis especially, one gets to see a lot of like city life and urban things coming in.
Yeah, we just, one of our young Baiga artists, she's about 18, she did this very nice painting on canvas, and it's a tree filled with birds and creatures all making out, you know, and then down at the bottom there was a little figure standing there. It was her. And I said, what is this? She said, I wanted to explain to you how we learned about sex. We watched the animals in the forest.
But you know, it's very.
And I wanted to put that down on painting. So
The birds and the bees.
Birds and
No, but that's not, yes, but that's the most natural, though. You're not about it.
nobody asked her to do it. It came out. Yeah.
Any other questions? Yes? Mitch?
Artist who also wants to collaborate with the artisans. So for example, if I put something on paper and then give them that, you know, you draw on this, I feel like I'm putting them in a box. But if I draw over something that they have made, I feel like I'm ruining something so beautiful that they have brought. So what would be the way to go about it? How do we collaborate with them today?
Well, most of them are very open. You know, when my artisans, my carvers, my inlay artisans, the artists, I think if you just sit down with them, you can have a. It's not hard.
I have got an example what you can follow. Get a huge canvas, get one of them and yourself, open up the paint and just do a jugalbandi on the canvas like you do in music. Now Tarun will say, but music is different and art is different and textile. Yes, but it comes from the same gut. So you do that, you experiment with it.
Once they're not intimidated with you, once you develop a rapport, it will happen automatically. And what I learned with for example, my stone carvers, and I'll give you an example. I had one stone carver who did most incredible Mughal jalis you could ever believe, classical Mughal jalis. But I knew he was creative. So one day I just gave him a huge block of stone. And I said, it's for you, take it home. And he made the most fabulous fountain. That was Rajput, him, Mughal, all that. And
Where is it?
He said, I sold it years ago. But he said, Sahab, nobody had ever given it to me. Nobody had given me the opportunity. I want you to, I'll never forget, I want you to know, I'm putting words in his mouth, but basically he said, we don't have to just slavishly copy what you give us. We are capable of solving design problems, and we are capable of our own creativity if you just give us a chance. So from then on,
that's the thing.
I let them
take away the risk factor and give them, that's patronage of a different kind.
If I may, there is a series of exhibitions that I worked on with Andrea.
Yes, you just.
The Italian artist and Rajusha. And it's called Jugalbandi, the one that.
Yes, Jugalbandi is the right word.
It's called Jugalbandi, where sometimes I find it just juxtaposing work of contemporary artists with that. I mean, one of the exhibitions we did was of nature. So the way a Westerner looks at nature from a very urbanized context, and a Gond looking at nature, just putting those two works in front of each other is beautiful. It kind of brings out a whole new dimension. I mean, it's not just doing something.
So if you cut this to miniature painters today, miniature artists, I told one of Mitch's miniature painters, I said, here is this tiger woman, with the body of a tiger painted. I said, stick my face in it and remove that Nayaka or whatever. And they produced the most wonderful painting. I mean, they
will recognize that they will recognize that you're a serious artist. You just have to treat them with the same respect.
Yeah, respect.
And then together, it's automatic. It just happens. Two artists meet, you begin to collaborate and play, and you can do it. Any of my artists or artisans, carvers that you want to work with, I'll organize something for you, whatever.
And organize it here in the garden. We'll all come.
We can
and now let's carry on this conversation over some drinks.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.